Quick word.
Okay, so we've got a recording in progress, so we will go ahead and call this council special session to order Wednesday, 2nd. The time is 5:34 p.m. Let's go ahead and our mission, our mission starts off everything
Mission off.
right up there. And I can't read it because I don't have my glasses on.
Glasses, you do your
Well,
side
no.
paperwork and stuff
There's
today.
no lot though. You see the agenda? Not enough free.
It's also on your spreadsheet. Well, right, our mission is providing quality, effective, and efficient service to our community. Develop the highest possible quality of life for residents, businesses, visitors. Right.
Keep
And
a
a healthy
healthy
environment.
environment within a sound economic framework.
And provide-
Provide leadership which is open, responsive to the needs of the community and works for the benefit of all.
That is our business.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I really wanted this to be an open conversation. Distributed, right, goal summary sheets. You have also seen the worksheet as to who is responsible for priorities, costs, and funding, if we're aware of that at this time. But I really wanted to open just hearing from each of you about your top two priorities in the next 2 years, really short term. We've got a lot going on. You could pick two if you'd like to offer anything in the next 2 years.
Can I start?
Yes, please.
I want a bridge over that damn railroad from 30 into this town.
What's
We
a,
need to get, we gotta do away with the Gable Road mess.
what's a good 2-year horizon, like?
At least get the state to talk to us.
That's excellent, thank you.
ODOT rail could be a challenge.
That's why I'm giving it 2 years.
Well, in the rail study quarter, you're gonna be seeing a proposal for,
Yes.
from the port to move the phase 1 work to phase 2 work, which some of the solutions are, you know, it's too big of a project for just the city. It's an ODOT rail scale project.
Would it be a pedestrian overpass? Was that the
That's a
idea?
possibility.
Last concept I heard.
Yeah, that was what they were proposing, but that doesn't really.
John fought back. John said, that doesn't really fit the bill. Yeah.
And they also came back with a concept proposal that the Port Avenue went over across at that spot. And I don't know if it's constructible or not.
Yeah, so Port Avenue to Sex Road.
Did a concept and it's very cartoon.
But starting that conversation and getting it incorporated. into the
That's a
plan.
heavy duty, which is gonna take an awful lot of agencies. And the federal government says it's trying to do things, but who knows what they're doing to plan with any of those people. If we can just find out what's going on in the next 2 years would be a big deal.
Thank you.
More the state. It's ODOT, Oregon Department.
Yeah, but there's a railroad and
Of railroad, right, so it's, sorry about it. And it will take ODOT 2 years to shake their head yes or no, going ahead on a plan or even a concept.
think of how really neat over Millard Road, they've got that stoplight working.
Counselor Morton, a priority in the next 2 years, priority or two for the next 2 years. And that's, I mean, certainly like look at the sheets. Are there things that like really resonate or look around the room?
I think my two would be, I'll just go because I would be the waterfront redevelopment
Yep.
and the police station.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mine's gonna be a police station or public safety needs, and then I would like to see an increase in sports fields.
Sports fields.
I'd like to see under goal 3, safe and livable community. I would like to see under planning, complete river walk phase 1.
I want to see the entrance or the harassment to get heavy industry in here, a major single industry. And again, the state doesn't even advertise in the development journals how to get industry into the state. So that's,
They're knocking on our door.
yeah, but the state doesn't help us. When you take a look at what other states do to get industry into their state, and ours doesn't. And that's one of the things, if I'm heavy industry, do I really want to go there? That's what bothers me.
So is that a marketing focus or is it more of a site readiness focus?
More of a marketing focus. If they've got the money, they can do the site.
And that's, you're able to attend tomorrow night, yes?
I'll be
All
there.
right, very good. Take it. Michael Berkeley.
I would agree on public safety, not only with the facility, but just in general. And the toss between transportation more than just the gate, what is as I know we're looking at the, let's say transportation. Not just connectivity to Highway 30, but other road, all our other little roads and, and yeah, transportation. So we can get around this.
Motorized.
What?
What does that transportation mean to you?
So the transportation, I guess, is more just the street, just the street plan. Improvement of
Sidewalks, trails.
trail. So
Pavement.
mine, I guess mine is more, we're talking about the cars and trucks and motorized vehicles, including things like, talk have been, what are we gonna, maybe this is being addressed in phase 1 with about the traffic patterns and flows here. So yeah, so motorized transportation.
Certainly agree with that, with our riverfront development. If we're finished with phase 1, how we're going to get there, and the entryway from Old Portland Road, and then we're going to police station. All of that needs to be improved, along with ordinances and resolutions that clean up a major thoroughfare getting into our town area. When Skip Baker was here, he started to make that happen, because there's a statewide ordinance that says, the major thoroughfares coming into the city can have conditions put on it so that a junkyard does not fill right into the highway or whatever. There needs to be a fence, those kinds of things. So I think that needs to happen on in some places on Old Portland Road. Thing kind of cleaned up. If that's going to be one of the major thoroughfares to our old town, our riverfront development, I think that some emphasis on planning and especially planning at this point of what that's going to look like. We have had a transportation study done on that area for the gateways.
And I am wondering, actually, another specific example, since when I drive to Columbia City, I scoot past the school district and down past the transportation center, and then that little left, and then on Deer Island, and then right, to get. And I'm surprised at how many people are heading to work in the morning, coming up Deer Island Road. So I think, so yeah, that is another access point to the highway and addressing that. So
Long range, I agree with Topaz, but this is a long range thing, is that West Street has a natural incline by the school, and West Street starts to go up. Okay, it would be the same pitch as going over the highway and over the railroad tracks, and over on the other side, there's city property. It's like just sitting there waiting for some kind of overpass. that would be, to me, a perfect place to put an overpass on the north side of Columbia Boulevard. Because it's, one, it's geographically set up, and two, it's the railroad is actually
That's right.
down a little, and this goes up, and it's like perfect place for an overpass.
That's great.
Talked about it before, but you know,
But yeah,
And
so
let's keep those long-term priorities. I just want to review these sheets. Oh, well, here, yeah.
no, it's not, yeah, I mean, these are all really long term, but I think short term, which is to really plant the seed and
And
get.
let's start with what we've got right now, and then I want to talk
sure.
long-term too. In light of the federal investments, in light of some of the state investments, in these regional conversations that we're having all the time, like, how do we get in the plan?
Mhm.
How do we get this to the top of the list? And how do we effectively advocate for these funds? So,
Because in some of these cases, we have the same problem as Caboose. So if we could be on the same team arguing, ODOT would be a big help. And I have a feeling there are other little towns around this state that have a railroad cutting through the middle.
glad you can make it tomorrow. Talk more about the real estate. But that's, so reading through these, start at the top of goal one. Reactions, I mean, all of this is born from the community survey, from the work we have done here, from your analysis and priorities that have come forward. The effective organization, there's a lot that we can do internally. A lot of it also rests with you as our governing body. So just reactions, if there are things that you do not see on this list at any point, please make a note, or things that you feel should be removed. If you have none of these, we can continue forward.
One thing that I find is, I would call too minuscule,
Mm.
is create a stable IT environment. I place that into a hard necessity as compared to a special thing. IT is changing so fast and so much required. I don't think it should be special. I think it should be boilerplate. Like, we have to heat this building. It's not a discussion. You just do it.
Yes, and I wish our IT team was here to talk more about it, because we're coming from a place of a legacy of Band-Aids. So getting to a stable place where we can perform our business functions, we're not quite there, even over like 6 months, without a hiccup in the system because of this legacy. So there's been investment, and this needs to be a strategic priority. Do you have things to add to that, or?
I would, yeah, it's broken.
Things,
Hardening is the thing here, and getting to that state where it is boilerplate. I don't wanna have to think about it. I don't wanna worry that I can't connect to the VPN.
part of it also is now we have a police station, and to investigate, crime on the web is becoming something they have to do. And they don't really have a recording system to watch what's going around, or a high-speed alarm system, or a TV system watching over the city. You can see pretty soon, we're really gonna need TV surveillance of the docks and some other places, just like you have a stoplight. Again, not an extra boilerplate.
I'm with it.
I'm looking over goal one on this list, and I like everything. It's all good.
Yeah,
I mean, the biggest is, the budget and sustainable budget, and discuss biannual city budget process too. Just, I think it's always good to have that in the forefront of your mind, 'cause everything in government, you have all kinds of great ideas. Always comes down to the dollar.
Okay, Rick, on the dollar. And this is the same category as going over the railroad. The state has a screwed up tax system, which really hurts us bad. Is there any possibility of combining all the little towns that have the same problem and somehow getting the legislature, I know they're scared of it, to look at, and that's a long term.
Like more
It
direct.
would get a lot of
allocation.
flack because it would be everybody who doesn't want their taxes raised. He's talking about measure 5 and 50, I think.
Yeah.
That's correct.
The balancing
Yeah.
of
So Mr. Topaz, if you're here next year, get on some of the planning committees that League of Oregon City has, and that's where you iron that out.
I was gonna say,
And then if it's a go from that committee, it goes to the League of Oregon Cities. You vote on that resolution for it to come before the legislature. That's how it works.
okay, so the League of
League
Cities
of Oregon Cities
is the entrance way.
will promote from their committees that they have, will promote that.
And that is,
Yeah, that's one path, yeah.
yeah, and that is,
It's a very complex issue. There's a legislative, there's a constitutional fix. There's
Yeah.
nibbling bits around the edges to try to get, reset sale and some other things to kind of get some equity back into the
I mean,
taxation program, but it's really, citizens of Oregon have voted that way, and they've defended it
Yep.
7 times
yeah,
over the years.
You can still be wrong, but it's hurting the state. big time.
Yeah, no, it's good there.
But then the lobbyists from the League of Oregon Cities will go to work with the legislators saying, we need this, we need this, we need this, this is a priority. It was voted on in our committee meeting, which Jessica was appointed to, carry our vote forward. I think this upcoming one, I'm certain, yeah. So it's, it's all in place. All you have to do is get to the League of Oregon Cities and apply for one of those committees, and it would be transportation and planning, I'm sure.
they're not hurt to
Yes, I
have
think
like
I
that.
think there's a finance and taxation,
Yeah.
and this is really a perennial priority is to do that revenue reform and have that conversation.
Yeah.
Definitely a long session item.
Because it seemed like such a petty idea that got started that has really hurt the state.
Crippled us. It's really.
I agree with the mayor about effective organization structure, and that's more administrative, isn't it? I mean, it's more, it isn't going to cost a lot of money to do to achieve those kinds of things.
There are some investments in training and supporting staff.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, are we doing any strategies to target these goals and what are they?
Yes, we certainly
Are
are.
we talking about
So we
that?
actually, looks like we have 10,000 for what she's talking about.
Yeah,
Support
oh,
professionals.
this is a bit larger format. I have an extra. I'm happy to share the larger format. But you've got it in your handout. This was the full spreadsheet that was sent out with these, with the lead and also like if a cost was there. There's some human resource, like HR training for managers, team building has a dollar ask there. Some of these are things that we kind of
Yeah.
do by course, like representing our community. And attending development opportunities. Some of that is already budgeted in your council funds for training, so
So
to continue that.
I do have a question about this, and this was a action item, in a sense, voted on by the council. I brought it to the council, and the council suggested, yes, staff looked into this, and it was oriented more towards public works, I believe. And so the final decisions about issues lie with the council. And the council said, yes, go ahead and let's take a look at this urban trail. And I'm looking through here and I see, there's been so much talk about that. And is it have I glazed over somehow? Because it wouldn't cost that much. And it'd be such a wonderful thing to do for so many things. What do you got?
Yes, and it's not called out specifically, but this
Two
is,
politicians right there.
well, this is very high on the list of items to incorporate in the Parks and Trails plan. And that is the long-term planning goal for the next 2 years is to run an amendment to the Parks and Trails
Okay,
master plan.
Rachel, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with that.
Yeah,
when the council, if something comes up and it isn't on a master plan, and the council says, yeah, let's do this. Don't care what it is, it should get done. Right? Because the council says it and whatever. The master plan is there for the staff to follow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so since we since we went through and all of us were united on going ahead on looking forward to the urban trail.
We did.
It doesn't cost that much. It'd just be signage and a few things in a brochure. And so our tourism people can go, oh my God, George, let's take the kids on this urban trail thing and see what it's going to do. It'll blow Howie's mind because they'll probably have to go through Nobile Nature Park.
Oh, no, that's waiting to happen. He's calling me.
Alright.
He would go.
I'm gonna capture this in number 3.
Okay, all right.
Now,
Thank you.
let's stop right here.
Yeah.
We're talking about getting the community to volunteer. A project like this, we can get people
Oh, without
out
a doubt.
on this. So that could be a double edge on that one.
Can we go back to Councilor Martin's statement though about the master plan? I thought we had to follow master plans for
The
funding.
council does not have to follow
funding.
anything. We can do anything we want.
We're the ones who make the plan.
But
We can get yelled for it, but
Pushback from staff. You will get pushback from staff, but no.
You're supposed to follow it.
Council, we can say that, well, we are saying no to that concept and we're moving in this direction, especially if it makes sense at that time, whatever council's sitting here.
the veterans,
Council could just at any point in time say, this is the way we're going.
case in point, the Veterans Plaza was not on a master plan. Actually, the Trailblazer, the little playground was not on a master plan. We talked about it and we said, yes, it sounds like a great idea. Let's go for it. So those sometimes some things come, you gotta trust your
I
council.
like this.
Well, I was just under the impression that we had to follow that for funding, making sure that
No,
we checked and balances.
It helps for funding and like Rachel's
Okay,
wanting
but
to
it's
really
not
get
an
into.
actual
What
requirement.
Rachel's proposing that we do is we get into the meat of things and actually start looking at where we could target some projects that have depth and meaning for when the funding does come available. Not that that's
I have no
not.
plans to go like Jekyll Hyde or anything, okay?
Right,
That's
right.
not what I'm thinking. I was just curious.
Exactly.
Here, let's keep going through just to
How
be,
those softball fields
to
go.
be sensitive to time.
Yeah, that's what we-
Well, and here, because goal 2 is kind of difficult to think about. I mean, these are the things that are not cut and dry, they're not like super dollar driven. These are the relationship bits, these are the things we commit to or we build into our practice.
Yeah, I mean, plans change all the time. You go through these exercises, you develop long-term plans.
Mhm.
There's a grant that comes up, there's a contest with whatever, and we're successful with that, and you just reallocate, pivot, just.
You run it by the council though, and the council says, yes, let's do it, and then then the staff has a direction. It seems to me,
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's not unusual at all.
So, and I will say that we could probably do a little bit better on number 2, but for the most part, I'm looking at a lot of it. I'm not, there's always room for growth. I know that, but before pre-pandemic, we were doing a lot of different town halls and big topics and stuff going on. And it was pre-Rachel, but we were doing a lot of that. So.
pre-Rachel.
Well, I was just an attendee, I just got to show up and make comments.
Yeah, but I just want to let you
Yeah.
know, because I know that through the survey, they feeling disengaged just because of, everybody was feeling disengaged. The kids from their schools, the whole works.
Really challenging run we've had here.
So it doesn't surprise me that this sparked from the survey, but I think that'll return. We're actually doing it already tomorrow. And usually on events like that, we would have public attendees, off to the side and sitting in chairs watching us do our thing. Yeah.
And this is also the chance for notes to be made, for us to have this conversation. This will come back for approval. it is immortalized. Let us go forward and take action, right?
I want to
Gives
discuss,
us a lot of direction as staff.
I want to discuss the community center of activity and research.
Yes.
When we were interviewing librarians, a lot of towns, their community center, the research center was the library. The point I'm making is towns need a community center. And sometimes by default, it's the library. And we've started working on a rec center and a library together. That is kind of an essence of a town, whether you formalize it or not, it seems to show up. So its importance is a lot more than just a single line. But as I said, we saw that from a number of the people we interviewed, the library had become the community center, the center of activity. We've been doing that. The community center is working with the schools, is working with the library.
So are you suggesting we, is in addition to the community center, we specifically mentioned library?
Well, we, somehow tie them all together, but realize it's more of a necessity for a going community than a nice thing to have. That's what I'm pointing out.
And this also appears here because we have a new facility. Activities are starting to happen there. The partnership is really strong with the school district. How do we make sure that we continue this as a welcoming, safe place for people in our community?
The library becomes more of an academic kind of facility, and the rec becomes more of a physical kind of facility in a sense. I mean, the programs that they facilitate to our public reaches everyone.
That like learning and making, and then the activity. Yes, and it
We
creates.
were impressed with how much these communities needed that. It isn't, oh, it's nice that we have 3 extra flags down in the street.
No.
It was really needed.
Really vital, and I think here and yeah, this is from a staff perspective, hopefully you've got a really big ask around communications coming in the budget. The expansions in communications have really made a difference for everything, all of our programming,
Huge.
the ways we engage,
When I-
and that
when
needs
I-
to be sustained,
I've
so.
told this story a few times when I was at the mayor conference, which we were able to attend in between COVID. And when I started explaining how our IT and our communications, what we spend on IT and communications in a town our size and how we get our message out. And they were just blown away that we are that far ahead. I mean, we are actually leading other cities in our size and some bigger in that department, and it pays dividends. It does.
It makes a difference, and from the survey, we hear residents feel like they have a way to connect, they feel informed, they feel listened to. Two-way communication.
Rachel, are these costs calculated for the budget, the new budget that we're getting ready to? Remember?
Not all of these are included. You'll see many of the ones with a fund source. Yes, some of these goal area 2, the ARPA funds, yes, that is there, but like the town hall figure and that, what is it, the stakeholder conversations,
Yeah,
those are not currently budgeted.
so the ones that are budgeted have a place of where they're gonna be coming out of. So general
Yes.
fund or water fund, sewer fund, okay.
And in goal 3, you'll see the goal, may we go to goal 3?
I've already flipped the page.
Okay. And any other, I mean, this is your plan, this is all of our plan, we own this together. So goal 3 is, it's easier than goal 2 to get your head around. These are very concrete projects, these are things that are happening, or the next logical step, right? A lot of these, and you'll see even up on the screen now, like expanding some of that nature base, like responding to the pandemic, responding and doing the best possible service for our community. I have added under Parks and Recreation and Urban Trail.
And then for police, we don't have anything there for cost and funding source, but it sounds like something is in the works. So that is something that we are working on, it just hasn't been identified yet, okay.
Yes, and as we heard earlier, you know, the budget process is out a little bit.
Yeah.
And let's see how some of these federal and state packages.
There's a lot of things to fill in, yeah.
Yeah.
Under the public library, again, hook back or connect with the rec center and that.
Thanks you for putting that under Parks and Recreation, because I'm sure Parks and Recreation might be here during our budget meetings during our public input to say some things about urban trail, whatever. So it's a hot topic in that direction. Not only that urban trail connects 6 parks. And that's why the parks people were really involved in it and have such a good push to it. Now, and then the other issue that I saw today with the police state, with our safety facility, was a trail linking coming from the Nob Hill area or whatever, going that direction. And then that could link up also to the McCormick Park Trail Facility and those kinds of things. So that there's so many components that are just about there to connect, and it isn't quite there. But the urban trail can serve as a hub to get out to those other trails so that pedestrians who are visiting our city have an opportunity to see it from their feet.
What cracks me up is where you're speaking of now, 7th Street, the Armory. Yes. Runs right into our lagoon.
Yes.
7th Street's on the police station, and I'm like, that's not okay. That's not okay.
I say we rename it Chamber Road.
Shoal Road.
Well, that's what we just annexed, and we annexed First Street on off of Columbia, so yeah, I hear you.
Somebody just give Doug his urban trail place, okay? He's making a great.
I've walked it with Jerry, it's lovely.
Well, it is, and there's a lot of people that use it, and it is, you know, I mean, they go through the Great Cliffs and back behind and down around and through the botanical gardens and back out another little trail and that back up Great Cliff.
And growing up here, ask the kids, they take it to the Lewis and Clark School across from Old Portland Road.
Yes.
In that area by where the Armory is. And there's that trail that goes up that way, yeah.
There's one thing you better make damn sure of, is that our police department keeps the crud that's bothering downtown Portland, bothering the parks away.
The what?
The weird people that show up in some of our parks in Portland. You've noticed the problems in
You
Portland.
mean from Portland to here?
No. Make sure our police don't ever allow that thing to happen in our.
We've got an ordinance.
Yeah, I know, but always make sure we back them up,
Without a doubt.
especially with these trails, to make those trails absolutely safe. Because that becomes a huge,
Well, and that's what sparked the ordinance.
Jesse, that's on your show.
but the number of people that come out to my daughter's farm just to walk is amazing. So the amount of people who are gonna walk on these trails is much more than you would imagine. It's just not local folk.
Exactly right.
Did you have a comment on goal 3? Okay. Other goal 3,
Standard, a lot of improvements in public works.
yeah, and these are all from conversation with departments. Yeah,
I do like that very last one, the evacuation plans drills citywide. That was actually, I was thinking about public emergency response capabilities as one of my top 2, but so I think, yeah, we need to, I like that.
great,
What's the last bullet point there?
great. Well, in that area is really important. Let's do that citywide. And keep us safe, all safe.
We once had a problem, this is well before I got here, that we found out we're not having one was really bad. There was a barge or a boat smashed up on the backside of Royal Rock. And the number of people who came to look at broken boats plugged up the streets, and a lot of the heavy equipment couldn't be here.
Oh, okay.
So the emergency plan be creative in what kind of disasters. Because we had a burning tanker out here in the river. You can imagine how many people would come to look at it.
Yeah.
Tourism.
Yeah, so,
Hey,
we're out there in the car, you know,
Let's,
cue the hot dog cart. you know.
let's turn off the navigation light occasionally on Warrior Rock there, right? We'll, you know,
Get to the OLCC.
Right.
All right, and as we get into goal 4, these are the items where this is a tough one because, you know, the plan, you'll have one bullet that says redevelop riverfront. This represents decades of work
Yes.
and terms of planning, so we've tried to really break this down into 2-year achievable goals that make sense in the overall plan and direction that you've set. Any questions? I feel like we're really trying to be faithful to the vision and to just keep going down this road. We've got so much momentum. Let us keep going.
Yeah.
And then there are also under that second one, the policies to promote economic development. Right, some of our analysis work that has to happen, and then heard a lot about that lodging options and numbers, so really trying to get that included there. And some of these, for example, the recreational boating, like this has surfaced recently. Make sure it is in the plan, let us make sure that we kind of keep our eye on the ball here and complete that timely, so. Well, we can always improve the experience, but let's take the steps we can.
Speaking of development, we've got this thing happening over behind Starbucks. We're gonna have a lot of people. What is gonna be their both mechanical makeup of what that group of people is gonna do in that area? We've got, hopefully there'll be kids going to school there. There's gonna be just people who are gonna basically stay home. What kind of mechanism are we gonna have to deal with on the street? From police, transportation, getting rid of traffic.
Well,
That's gonna change our-
I can speak just a little bit on it, but if we wanted to get, here.
I spoke to her in detail about the project
Yeah.
too, and I'm familiar with NOAA in my line of work, so it is, you know, low income housing, so it's families, it's seniors, it's
Yeah.
people that are disabled.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot of people staying home, but I don't think it's necessarily gonna be problematic, if that's what you're
Well,
looking at.
with that many people, they're gonna have to be shopping, right, somebody go out there, there's gonna be a whole new mechanism at that point.
Well, the traffic issue is ongoing, which is one of the reasons that when we responded to the emails about it, we kind of said, hey, there's 230 units going to like that intersection is gonna get a lot worse. So it's a problem area.
And you're gonna end up, if they've got that many people in that condition, the ambulance traffic through there is gonna be a lot higher, because they're gonna need
Their
medical
money would be
services.
egress, I don't know, they could reach out to ODOT because there's a back spur back there. We have a city street that ODOT uses anyhow. We do.
Is there ingress and egress off of, what is that, 20th Street or?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, there could be an egress and ingress and egress.
By Sunset
Maybe
Equipment.
For,
That's the road that goes by the
for,
jail.
for jail,
Or
for
the jail.
police and fire department, you know, but literally right there at Sunset where the rail has all their equipment there.
Right.
Yes.
That's our city street, actually, that they have built that cyclone fence on.
Oh,
So
okay.
you have that little spur,
Mhm.
and you have to get permission from them, you know, ODOT. We will put in a little road there, but it would be a nice little spot, and that's actually where he's talking about the overpass, so.
Well, I know Jacob put in a lot of time with the planning division to help me know with this project, so I'm curious, maybe some insight from him about things we could do to improve the area, because I'm sure he has ideas.
And what I understand, I mean, it needs to come up to like the envisioned street standard with sidewalks and, you know, bike access and that type of thing.
So, yeah.
One thing we don't do here is, we need a street right through there. Well, there are 2 houses in the way. Tough, we take them out.
So,
And around here, if it's a private piece of property or a building, it doesn't move forever, and yet the overall goodness of the town really says we somehow have to move that person. And a lot of states, if it really is gonna help the town or the community, it's fair game to move.
It's pretty sacred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And that was one house.
Well, or, eminent domain actions, I don't know how
We
that.
bought it, we're
Yeah.
not, right, we're not,
We didn't force him to sell either.
we're not doing eminent, we're not enforcing eminent domain
Yeah.
on them. And I guess I would respectfully disagree, Councilor Topaz, with the need, wanting to pull in one big, huge, heavy industry, again, a focused one, because I think the history of our town, we're suffering from
Absolutely.
that, and so in the economic development, if part of our developed policies and programs, we've talked a lot here about improving the infrastructure and recruiting, but I'm thinking it would be good to have some discussion about, is there a, maybe a niche, so our parcel, so our business park, parcels.
Yeah,
We could potentially have, 40 small businesses, maybe some of them combine the parcels. But it could be could we be developing a complex that focuses on a particular type of industry, but it's not just one huge big.
Well, that's still the
corporation.
same, that's the same thing. I don't care whether it's one company. But we do have a problem with, we'll say, an industry in this state that's takes money out. There was an article, I guess 3 days ago, about a California company that just bought out another apartment complex, which brought their total holdings in Oregon to a little over $1 billion. So a lot of these complexes, the money that's being generated in the complex is going outside, their home office.
Okay, yeah, right, so I mean, maybe, but I think,
Sure.
yeah, but I just think it is maybe to have some kind of discussion about, is there maybe a particular type of
Yeah.
niche that we would try to maybe would be attracted to.
Right, or-
Typically, if you have a big industry, there's a lot of those little things that come along with it. So why not build all those little things in a big enough section that it looks like a big industry? I have no problem with that. We need industrial stuff coming in here.
Correct, yeah, or is this, if you look at OMIC and that region,
Yeah.
looking at that additive manufacturing and advanced metal.
Right, how can we capitalize on OMIC and getting people?
and I think.
Yeah.
Additive manufacturing.
There, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that phase one ties in with short term because of the police station, and we have to be able to build up the police station. We have power, we have the start of the sewer, all that, so that.
You're gonna need another restaurant or something like that.
So phase one is gonna be going when the police station is going in too, at the same time, so that.
Donut shop.
Oh.
Keep the little bit.
Say it when Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Leave this for the entrepreneurs out there.
14 years ago, when I was a third year council person, we had to talk about people would fill up our council chamber and I go, what are you gonna do about the ghost town? This place was just dead. Just dead. What are you going to do? And it was all of this stuff. And we talked and the agreement is that, that's when this property came up for sale. And we bought it to enhance our economic development for a service-based economy. And that's exactly what this 22 acres is going to probably facilitate. There won't be any big businesses, I doubt, in that area. It's mostly be residential and commercial. And so I agree with Patrick is that, and we had those discussions, and that's when the paper mill was starting to go away. And that's where Frieston lumber started to go away. And the veneer plants started to go away. And we talked a lot about diversifying businesses so that if one goes away, there's these others that will be sustainable in the long run. And so that's where we put a lot of our energy, and that's kind of where we're at now. And so this is coming up also about if we do that, we do it successfully, then it gives us, I think, more ample opportunity to try to bring in big businesses, which I know are already knocking on our door.
Reinventing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot because of the plans and the concepts of the riverfront development. That has created a stir with, I think, some of the larger businesses and corporations and investors especially.
So we've been talking just a little bit about the mill property, right? And the site is not ready.
Right.
Okay, but we witnessed what they've done out there at the St. Helens Place Apartments and how they did that development. And we are currently witnessing what is it called, broadleaf? No, oak leaf? Broadleaf. Yes, okay. We can see what they're doing there as well. They are actually taking out rock, which is site prep, and they're crushing it on site. We have that ability, yes, we have that ability to do the same site prep at our facility and use our public works crew to build that pad for the police station, if we choose to do that. All they would have to do is get a stockpile of rock, and I can show you exactly where it's at. They all know where it's at, all the public works guys. Get it all crushed, broken up, and then we release a crusher. That's all those guys are doing out there. They're just leasing that crusher. And you actually bring it in and you start crushing it, and then you just move it from the contractor parking lot, which is behind the ball fields. And that's where it's at, behind the ball fields, and just truck it right up the road, place it. And our public works crew could absolutely do that.
Save us a lot of money on that facility
Yes.
in terms of construction.
Yeah.
How much rock has to be blown up there?
Well, they
Not
can.
as much as the
and
law,
they-
200.
And they could chip it. I mean, you can chip it, but it's better to blast. But you could even chip it. And they would just chip and stockpile it. And there's actually some concrete that we need to get rid of anyhow that maybe will go through a crusher too. That's over there.
I think you will be happy to see that site
So, and it would
preparation.
also be, it would be twofold. It would be creating, which would be phase 2. Working out a little bit on phase 2 of our mill site, but bringing it over to phase 1 for the police station. Because it's 270 cubic yards that need to be brought in. More than that, 2,700 cubic yards. So 270 truckloads beyond that dirt pile that we already have over there.
You could lease a crusher and
Which going to buy 3/4 minus is 140 a load. You can talk to any truck driver that buys it wholesale. 10 yards is $140. So 140 times 270 plus the trucking, getting it there, and then the contractor to place it and spread it out. Our public works crew can do all that.
Patrick, get your hard hat.
So
Well, and Mr. Mayor, like, this is a great
and
plan.
the public works crew have talked about it. They have, mentioned it just slightly to Mohammed. I talked a little with John, but the other guys like Buck and Dave over there, they actually amongst themselves have said we could do that.
I wouldn't truck it though. Sort of road built and.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just right there.
And again, you can lease a rubber belt, conveyor belt.
Start mining.
So,
That site preparation is on here. I mean, that's.
yes, I
it's
just
here.
wanted to throw that out there.
Fundraising for the softball team,
It's
get
so,
the softball team, no, but I they're not the rock stuff, so no, sorry, Rick, but I hear you, it's a good.
no, but so it also it does our facility, but also shows interest at what is going on there.
Sure.
And anybody who's driving by that we aren't advertising to, that says, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
Talks about it, well, that's the St. Helens Industrial Park. And they're actually, they'll see the trenches, because phase 1's gonna have trenches and all kinds of new stuff going down it.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity zone and it's an enterprise zone.
So you said that it would save us money. Are you calculating the time that these public works people would be taken off from the regular?
It would be
jobs to do this?
just about the cost of rock to go buy it from the rock pit. What we need at the public safety facility, just the rock cost of building that, getting it out of the 500-year floodplain is $300,000. Then you have to truck it from there. That's just the cost of rock. So pay a truck driver to do what? 10 loads a day or 20 loads a day in another rock pit, depends on how busy they are. Probably 15 to 20 loads a day. And then pay that, and then also have to have another guy, contractor with a track or a tractor. It would actually have to be a cat to walk it in. I'm not an engineer, but you have to walk it in, and you have to keep walking it in levels and lifts. And we have the engineering department who could say, yes, the guys are familiar with doing all this. They know how to create lifts and make it right. And we have in-house, we do it all.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you another.
Capacity though, is what I'm asking. Not necessarily do we have the know-how,
We
because these
do.
guys do work full-time jobs, doing whatever else they do.
Well,
supers and,
so
you know.
that brings up a point is that we have been understaffed for actually 3 years on the public works. Well, before you came in, we were actually short 2 guys. Then it supposedly got filled with 1 guy. Scott got moved, Williams, but anyhow, long story short, I think we lost 2 different positions, but we're short 1. So if we created another position, because we also have all these projects too within. And it would definitely pay for itself. It would pay for themselves 10 times over with this, even just this project here.
Rick,
Well, something to consider.
Yes.
another question on the basalt that's over there. Have we ever run a good chemical analysis of it?
So when myself and John researched this a little bit with Scott Parker came in, he brought in a few Baker Rock. There was no issues. They were.
No, wrong direction. There's
I don't know what.
there's a new movement in using basalt rather than sand to make certain types of fiberglass. I'm thinking of using it as a base material.
Oh, well.
That was the question.
There's plenty there. There's
Yeah.
a little bit for everybody.
We have not looked at that as a feedstock for some of the new experimental stuff.
Yeah, and actually, it could be revenue positive, where I was going with that, even if we chose to work with another third party. Where it can even be positive that way, but our guys are definitely capable and less bureaucracy and public, it's us doing it, and we're just doing site prep.
So it'd be up to Mohammed to come in and give us a business plan of how it would all work,
Yes.
and we could yay or nay it, and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty simple to do, yeah.
Exactly.
And John's familiar with.
Yeah, what do you
We
think, John?
haven't, well, we put a lot of effort into it, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
more so on the removal side,
Mhm.
creating level building pads down at the industrial park, about a 20-acre pad in there. Some of that's a little challenging because there's some buffers and wetland setbacks and things of that nature, but the part the mayor's talking about is just as a little island outside of all of that, which
Yes.
is probably pretty doable.
Wouldn't have to get any special permitting or anything, because we're not going below a certain.
What we don't have is something really simple, is just the erosion grading and drainage plan for the public
Yes.
safety site, which is on its way. It was on those, on the bars we talked about earlier.
Right.
Yes.
It's all happening, so.
In the next 2 years, it's happening.
Well, the grade field permit, well, actually, we can do those lifts, we can bring that in on a grade field permit. And get it out of the 500-year floodplain,
Yeah.
correct?
Well, when it's structural, you're gonna have a structure, you're gonna have geotech commission to come in and do.
Yeah.
Lips and roll proofs.
Yes,
We have all that equipment. so.
Yep. yes.
John, is the port still interested in access
Well, John, I guess what,
of the road into their property?
Yes.
Very much, yeah.
yes, that 50-foot easement, yes. Well, what I was getting at is they were talking about the timeline of the grade fill would be this summer. So now's the time to start talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Those plans are on a glide path right now.
We got you. We got your site prep.
Come talk to us.
The other thing we would do is, we don't bring trucks in through Gable Road if we have to bring it in from some other place. How's that for a happy thought?
All right, I'm gonna need to like zoom us on back out. Let's zoom on back out.
John, to work with Mohammed, bringing us something on.
Site preparation on here. This- The material on the industrial site is your urban trail. Let us get them both going. Yes. Long-term planning is fabulous. We've made so much progress. Praise be talented staff in going down a road on plans. In here, this transportation system plan update, that is a critical piece, having that in the next 2 years. The Parks and Trails Plan amendment, these are all really critical pieces. Just to have that sewer plan, like just to have that in my hand was huge, and now we can start.
So what is happening at the federal level right now that is holding everything up? Because it was passed a long time ago to reinvest in the infrastructure, and it just seems like it's at a standstill.
I'm on the record. Well, some of it has come to the states, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That funding has come to the states. Some of that is formula funding. X goes to your state for these projects. I'll take transportation as an example. So there's a formula chunk of money that has come to ODOT. ODOT is now in a series of public hearings and meetings to determine how they're going to distribute that money to the local level. So you've got your formula grants and then you have competitive grants. These are the build grants, now Tiger. These are the competitive federal level grants. Those are starting, some are in development, some have started to open. For example, like the Economic Development Administration, those competitive grants have opened, some have already been awarded. So formula stuff coming to the state needs to make their allocation plan.
So they just kick it to the state to let ODOT go ahead and accept the application
Well,
and filter through,
or
so to speak, or.
and I would advocate for a formula to local jurisdictions for a huge chunk of that money.
It should be.
Yes. So that is the advocacy that has been going on. Thank
Once
you,
there's a surplus in Salem.
League of Oregon Cities. They're also trying to fit it into their strategic goals, right? Carbon reduction, equitable communities, EV charging, that type of thing. I'm keeping my eye on roads and bridges, keep my eye on formula money. But right now, so it's just that flow of it coming to the states. State agencies aren't used to having additional money. So they're having trouble
Well, they really
getting
don't.
it out.
They
there
really
more.
don't, if you want to talk about PERS, but yeah, you're right.
So it's just that there's that logic and that cultural, there's this jolt of what do we do with money, So let's get that flowing. Same with the legislatures housing and homelessness package, right? Going to housing community services and a lot of that.
So it's gonna be a while because they're wondering how they can keep it for themselves, is what I hear you saying.
Well, it's also just that
That's
government is
that's really what's going on.
not really known as being nimble and responsive and able to push money really quickly, which again is another great reason for us to plan and to be ready to make competitive applications and get this here in service to our citizens.
Can we pre-applicate them by asking when they're gonna have this available?
Well, ODOT, for example, they have another hearing, March 10th is the end of their comment period for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act money. And then it'll probably be about 6 months of rulemaking. And then applications will be available.
And I wanna hit them up before they hit the rules or hit the application, just to kind of get them off, I don't know what I'm doing attitude. The other thing, bridge over the railroad, that's bridges, and it's also, since people are moving, less carbon. Sell them anything you can, but get it here.
Yep, but it's coming.
Yeah, any idea what they got from the federal government? I know we passed a 5.4 billion infrastructure for ODOT well before that, which was monumental.
I will find it for you as soon as, like, in a couple of minutes.
Because it could be eye-opening, it could be $10
It's a-
billion and look at our state highways.
It's a
Maybe somebody
substantial-
Start pounding their chest and saying, hey, what's
It-
going on?
There was a formula some time ago, and I think it's changed with the new administration, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, it's a substantial amount of money. I'll get that number for you in just a moment.
I'm just interested
Yeah.
because you know,
It's,
I thought 5.4 billion was a lot to be investing.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there's probably equal that, because it was $1 trillion, 1.2, I think.
it's substantial, though I do have to say, like, there's always gonna be more demand.
Yes,
There's
I
always
get that.
gonna be
Oh, I
more
get
demand
that.
needed.
I get that.
Rachel, is there any money for training blue collar workers in any of these funds?
Well, yes,
Because then I would try to have, quote, ODOT, who's now building this bridge, train people how to build a bridge.
even at the state level, there's a $200 million workforce investment package. It so happens the governor's advisor for workforce right now is Jennifer Purcell. She's also our regional solutions coordinator. But there is quite a lot of funding for workforce training, and that has been identified.
Because we've got so much opportunity, we can help train your people, you know, whatever good stories we can give.
I'm with it.
But use that, because one of the things that we're hearing big time is we don't have trained workers, and the average worker is in the 50s and gonna retire out of the system.
Yep. Yes.
The Omex is not one of the great parts of the world. It's nice for us, but they're well behind on most of the world.
More to come on workforce, though. It's a great point.
I have a couple of questions
Yeah.
specific about the long-term projects.
Yeah.
So I see Milton Creek Bridge replacement. What is happening there with that?
I'm so glad you asked about that.
I have a couple, so I marked a couple that I was curious about.
I could have brought that up some time ago, and that goes in with the framework of the transportation corridor coming in. That bridge narrows down
Yeah.
to 2 lanes, and I would say it's, you know, it's been up there for a long, long time, since the Depression, I believe. An old Portland Road bridge that is
Load limited.
yes, and so
And it's
it's ready.
critical evacuation route, critical public safety access, flow of goods and services. Was recently made aware of a FEMA funding opportunity. And this may be a hazard mitigation opportunity. Going back and forth with the state office, just thinking about how this project might be a good fit for some of the project funds that were just released. There were $36 million in project funds released.
If we're,
Milton Creek Bridge just happened to be the one because it's strategically located, public safety facility. And we've got amazing robust plans from the Riverfront Connector Plan, where I was able to go and like find the cost of the bike ped bridge and the traffic counts.
Well, and that's it, those bike ped bridges were built to widen the bridge.
That's what, how long ago was it? They're not very old, right? Less than 10 years?
Yeah, probably a little bit more now.
about 10 years, so
They were big and built to anticipate that there would be a wider bridge there.
So is there?
It should cave in though.
The
It caves in.
replace it? And then are we gonna have any
Well,
issues since it?
It might be all,
Historic.
it might be all in one, then those might just go and you might just have it all in one bridge, I don't know.
So it came up very recently because of the strategic location, and we can get a lot of ecosystem benefits and flood mitigation out of doing work around that.
You know, we almost have 2 wrecks a year there. That hit those, yes, it's honestly.
Well, you see, yeah, they,
It is a
you
lot.
had
They make up the word.
boom, boom.
Yeah, we've been banging our heads on that bridge in particular, so this FEMA opportunity came up, I've been in conversation with, I know this is on the longer term. Here's an example of something that's on our project list that's longer term that we've identified, especially as we activate the park. And if an opportunity comes up, we as staff, and thank you, John, like
Jump it up.
feel empowered to take opportunity.
I like the sidewalks, lots of sidewalk improvements, that's gonna be exciting for the community. And then I see on the next page, install floating pier for fishing and non-motorized boat launch.
Yeah, so the sidewalks are gonna be, you know, one of those things that are SDC driven and,
Well, the community loves it, they love it.
Yes.
oh, I know, so what we've done with our general fund is we've really stretched it to build a police station, and that's where we grab other, because we only grab a certain portion of SDC funding.
Right.
We have to find other monies to do some of the sidewalk projects probably in the future. Some we'll be able to do, but not a big bunch unless we look at that through the budgeting process.
And the floating pier, I believe this
Is,
is.
we're trying to work on with a grant with ODFW.
Eclipse, yeah,
Yep,
that's
yep.
Awesome, I'm excited about it. I'll
Really
be
good.
pushing on it.
You picked really good ones that
Those
I've
are
got.
the ones I was curious about, so I figured this
We're doing
is.
sidewalks right now,
Ask about
at the
them.
Grove Street level, because the streets have been paved and paved and paved. How do those get fixed?
Not an engineer.
Okay, well,
No, I'm talking about pavement, because I obviously have a sidewalk here, it's been here. But I've repaved the road, so the water runs off the road on the sidewalk.
Are they identified
No.
here?
No,
Could you share the sections offline?
yeah,
Because I mean,
we'll get you later.
Yeah.
But as I said, we have sidewalks in some part of the city, but because the road work over the last 50 years, they're below the road, where at one time they were gutters.
I also, as a homeowner, like, let's be clear, like, as a homeowner, the sidewalk is my responsibility to pay for.
It's already in though, I mean, you paid for it once. But the city raised the road, changed the conditions, how does that get in? That's, I'm not talking about a new sidewalk. I'm talking about a sidewalk that's existed, but the conditions around it have changed.
Okay, well, let's get those sections.
so, you got anything you want to wrap up in like 5 minutes so we can, you know,
That's
offline?
really it. I really just wanted to have this conversation to check in with everyone, make sure
Oh, I
you're
think this is
comfortable.
a very good stuff to be,
We're
and just to recap,
we're
but
moving forward,
where's the city going?
and
We
we're,
don't know if we don't tell each other.
and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know like we're new to this process, we're new to this cycle, so the more we get comfortable with it and let's really think about that. If 2 years is the right horizon, you know, like we'll think about some more of those as we go along, but
I think it is for putting the goals out there and then, but just check in.
When will we do our next one?
2 years isn't that much. Remember, if we get the police station right now,
Okay.
it doesn't get done for 2 years. What are we gonna do after the police station? I mean, again, construction takes real time. Paperwork takes even more.
All we need is just basically a half-hour presentation on a work session to say where are we at in our goals.
That's what I was thinking, maybe an update from Rachel every once in a while with the full year.
these are also folded into all of your department reports. All of those 6-month reports, every
Sometimes
department.
we forget the big picture though, you know what I mean, when we're looking at
Well,
little.
and it
parts
doesn't
of
hurt,
it.
it doesn't hurt to also be the public eye of this, where we're at in the
Hey,
project.
look at the stuff we've done towards our goals, you know?
Yeah, happy to do it.
Maybe a
I feel like
biannual-
Rachel's like, great,
biannual-
something else, Justin.
No.
Biannual report like we do.
Let's make it work for everybody. Like, we want the process to work. We wanna do the.
Not that we're not focused on this, it's more about the PR and letting people know when they do watch me that, you know, hey, this is on the agenda.
In counseling world, we call it a golden thread, you just bring everything back and continue to do that, and keep it all aligned, so.
I love
The golden thread.
The golden thread.
thread.
Well, and that's.
I knew Rachel would get a kick out of that
This
one.
is a communications tool for you. When you talk to constituents, let them know that we do planning, we take it seriously. Here's what we're up to.
Literally down to the exact type of
Part of it,
project,
yeah.
yeah. Nice. Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Service.
All right, so we gotta get this all situated and get ready for our regular meeting. so. Yeah.
Stand up.
We are-
Standing up.
So eager to go.
We got presiding officer out.
Fails, whatever. Locked up.
We'll call this from regular session to order. It's Wednesday, March 2nd, time is 7 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will go ahead and open it up for visitor comments. If you have a comment, please come on up and state your name and keep it to 5 minutes or less.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna stand and watch that, so I know where I'm at. And so, okay, good evening, Judith Thompson, 185 South Fourth, St. Helens, 97051, across the street from Mr. Topaz. Okay, good evening. I have one comment and I have one big concern. Comment is, I would like to recognize E2C Corporation for the tourism to our town that has built, created, developed over the years. Halloween town and kept 4th of July going, 13 nights going, able to create activities, bring in celebrities, negotiate contracts with countless moving parts, got a lot of stamina. We had the experience over the last fall volunteering, and it was a real eye opener to see how people just, they had fun, their families had fun, the kids had fun, and it was great. It was a great getaway, and it was a big eye opener. Tourism is part of our economic development, and I'm looking forward to the continued investment of E2C Corporation and city partners for 2022 tourism. Thank you. Now, big concern. I'll call this on the way to the Kiwanis Parade. So in effort to give the St. Helens PD a heads up, seek information on parade permit, I messaged Chief Rainway. His response was more than concerning and made me super sad. What I learned from his response is the staffing study done in 2012, 10 years ago, isn't, back then it was the adequate staffing required for 27 sworn officers. They had 20 then. Our population was 12,562. If that study was done today in 2022 with a population of 14,560, that would estimate 30 sworn officers needed. Currently, we have 20 sworn officers. This is not new information to our city leaders. Staffing needs to cover 911 calls, traffic incidents, patrol, premises checks, investigation, appear in court. Officers need to cover mandatory training, deployment. Often we have officers that are deployed, long-term light duty, time off, illness, time for mental and physical wellness, and family. To provide these coverages, St. Helens PD pulled 2 school resource officers, eliminated city and court council security, safety, suspended community engagements. Bigger events that include law enforcement concerns. July 4th, 13 nights, Hood to Coast, Seattle to Portland, Kiwanis Parade, Halloween Town, 6 weekends, Hunger Run, Amani Run, Reindeer Run. Industry standards are 2 officers per 500 people at events. To even find more coverage, looking into 2023, 2 officers that man the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. would cease. In 2021, officers responded to 540 911 calls, 147 traffic control incidents, 116 premises checked, 803 responses between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. If we let this go, that's kind of like nobody's watching the hen house. So, question, on the Board Leaf Arbor with the 239 units, they paid $1 million in service development fees to the city. Was that just for infrastructure only? If that was the case, why was there no service fee for public safety, PD, and fire response, or what's there? Why is public safety budget in with library and parks and rec? It concerns what officers' well-being, excessive overtime, burnout, no relief in sight, become estranged from family and friends, become resentful to others that have balance in their lives, stress trying to complete training and certifications, exposed to so much negativity and rhetoric against police, how to manage what police and see and do, have to deal with trauma, abuse, and death, stress of self in danger, and a lot of unknown. Life balance is critical. Choosing balance and people are choosing balance and a better work environment over higher wages. Cost of overtime is 6 digits. City council, you may be aware of the big hiring and retention bonuses that are happening all over in cities of America for law enforcement, and there, it's a chunk of change. Sadly, this has gone unresolved for a decade. We need to take action now. Our community is at a rate that will compound impact public safety dramatically. What about if we do 2022, 3 officers, 2023, 3 officers, 2024, 2 officers with contingency, they have a staffing if staffing drops below standards. In closing, Chief Greenway's got it covered. Listen to this guy. He's articulate, he's smart, he's a good leader. He's dedicated. We have dedicated officers we want to keep and bring on, but we've got to get this on board before we get so far behind, we'll never catch up. And I know we're talking about millions of dollars, so we got to do it, people. I mean, when you look back, 10 years ago, still in the same boat, and we're like exploded population. Thank you. All right.
A question, there was no issue with Kiwanis Parade though, you just were calling to, you were just calling to inquire about it, right?
Yes, and we're working that out. Yeah,
Okay.
we're working that.
Just want to make sure, because we
Yes.
support that parade.
Yes, we are
Been
working
on
that.
for a long time.
It's kind of like having a car in the garage for a couple of years and then trying to bring it. It's complicated.
And Judy, just so you know, we had the chief come today
Yep.
and we are
Uh-huh.
working on a resolution to the problem, okay?
Okay,
So
great.
we have some irons in the fire,
Oh,
but
great.
we appreciate your advocacy.
Yeah, just ask yourselves, if you want to walk a walk in their shoes, or
Yeah.
would you want your
Exactly.
family or friends, in their shoes? It just wears you down until you're just done. So, okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
I see a hand raised, unless there's somebody else, come on up. The person first.
Tina Curry, Tourism Consulting. I just wanted to let everybody know that these new lovely banners are going to be down on the riverfront where you can come off of Cowlitz. And designed by the fabulous Crystal King. So these will kind of finish off that entry point when people are coming to park in the future. And yeah, it's gonna look awesome. And then I also wanted to just ask, we're going to be moving the pumpkin totem, and do we want to put it away, or do we want to move it maybe where the old flag was? There's nothing there now, and it's kind of like just in that corner that people visit. They would have something they could get a picture with. It's up to you. It can go in the shop or whatever.
I think maybe it probably should go in the shop just so you can get out of the weather for a while and see if it does need to be treated.
It's treated.
It is?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm the only one person that I would just like to.
Of course. Yeah, it's just for people when they come to town and then they go, oh, there's nothing here for Halloween and, so it's just a picture opportunity. But if I put it up, I would only put it up in that corner where the flag is now missing. And it's kind of out of the way, right on that fence line. Just kind of right there.
Can you put it in a place where you can see Mount St. Helens in the background?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good idea.
but that would be that flag position, I think. Yeah.
I think one of the things is we have heard locals that were upset about Halloween decorations being up all year round. So I'm curious about,
Yeah.
if we might hear some feedback about that.
Yeah.
We haven't yet, to my knowledge, so.
Haven't heard anything this year.
I've heard a few.
See, that was my only thought about
Yeah,
it.
nothing major, like they were.
Could I come down and help you hold that up so our council can see it as well as our visual?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Was this drum footage or was this her lift?
This is an old picture, but it just looks really great. They're excellent.
Oh, this is what we've got.
Camera.
Turn
See it?
around. No,
Yeah.
turn.
Look at the camera now.
And for our camera here.
Now lift it higher, higher.
I'm done.
Right, the 2 poles as you enter the waterfront off Cowlitz.
Okay.
Yeah, right where the gate
No, we were just talking about communications and how we do a good job, and I think just having our free website on there is excellent, on point.
Yeah.
And make sure that stays it, and
Yeah, look at the whole town, they might yourself, what's going on down here?
There you go.
So, yes or no to the pumpkin, it doesn't, or to the totem, I
I'm
don't.
okay either way.
I don't think it's a decision I need to be weighing in on. It's not a decision.
Okay, well, then I'll just handle it.
I think unless we hear complaints about it.
And we can move it if we hear complaints, that's the thing.
Otherwise, I don't see why not.
Yeah. It's not like it's gonna be front and center anywhere, kind of like, oh yeah, we do have something, we can go down here, yeah. All right, thank you.
Other visitor comments? Okay, and then we'll go to Zoom, and I see Brady has got his hand raised. Brady, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, I wanted to comment about the request for money from the Chamber of Commerce. The chamber had an opportunity to actually get money from tourism by and even have a paid staff person from tourism, and they turned that opportunity down. And I'm an advocate for the chamber. I'm a former chair of the chamber, but they can't just show up and ask for money and not want to do anything. And again, when given the opportunity to participate in Halloween and get tourism dollars, they decided not to for whatever reasons that they had. But then I don't think that should give them an opportunity to show up and just ask for money for not doing a lot of tasks. And they should be getting money from everybody. If they want to be tourism, they should be looking at Columbia County tourism and getting money from the Columbia County Economic Development Team and not just City of St. Helens. I also wonder about the value, at least year round, about having a physical presence. A lot of people now get information online, and I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, about whether it's useful to have an actual tourism office or not. I mean, the building is great. Everybody, I think that the remodeling that they did, the building looks wonderful, but I don't know how valuable it is as a tourist center. Especially, in today's digital media. One thing I'd like to comment about is I'm glad to see that Chief Greenway and I are in agreement, and that the building, when asked about getting officers in and out of the building, he specifically says, oh, well, no one's ever going to be there anyhow. I totally agree that, yeah, that is the point that was making. It's like, why are we building this building that, as he said, his exact quote was, having police officers there doesn't make good policing. Having them out in the field is what makes good policing. Exactly. So again, what is the need to build the Taj Mahal police station when they're not going to be there? By his own admission, he's like, oh yeah, we don't need to worry about getting them in and out because they're not going to be there. So to me, we do need more police. I would agree with that. I don't think we need a new police building, especially the way that you're financing it. If you want to put it out for a vote, great. But I think that you're doing an action that is not good for the city, and I don't think it's legal, frankly. I also am concerned about comments that were made about spending tourism money, that this is like a piggy bank that you can spend money on. You've already stole money out of the tourism account for fireworks. And my fear is that you're going to steal money for other projects that might come up, anything that you want to spend it on. That is money that the tourism director generated to spend on tourism. And I don't think it is appropriate to take that money for anything else but tourism. That's what it's there for. That's what she generated it for. She has plans to spend that money to make our tourism better. And it shouldn't be a money grab of, oh yeah, look, we have this pot of money that we can spend. I think that's not reasonable. That, why is she working all the hours that she does and bringing all the people here so that you can just grab her money and spend it on whatever you want. Leave the money alone, let her spend it on what she's generated it to spend it on, and let her do what she wants to do so that she can make the tourism a better than it has been every year. It's gotten better. In addition, I'd like to know why she doesn't have a contract. We are almost now 3 months after her contract expired, and you almost we're going into the third month and she doesn't have a contract. It's not reasonable to expect her to work without a contract. Get her a contract. And it shouldn't have taken this long. It should have been signed before it expired, frankly, and now you're way behind and nobody's even talking about it that I've heard even mention her contract that needs to get done. Finally, I'd like to mention that, you're worried about funding the cops. I think that you could spend that with all the extra legal fees you've paid just from having your counselor Topaz. And then he has the audacity to ask you to pay for his legal fees. To me, that's ridiculous. You waste lots of money, including not reducing people's salaries when they've lost responsibilities, which has happened twice in 2 different departments at the city, in both finance and in the rec center, when people no longer have the same responsibilities that they had before. Their salary should be reduced. That would pay for some officers right there. When you have reduced duties, then you should have reduced salary, plain and simple. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brady. Any other visitor comments? If you'd like to make a comment and you're watching Zoom, you need to raise your hand so we can acknowledge you. And we'll give it just a second before I go on to my first reading. Not seeing anybody. Okay. Ordinance, first reading, ordinance number 3281, an ordinance to annex and designate the zone of certain property located southeast of the intersection of Pittsburgh Road and Meadowview Drive. Resolution number 1947, a resolution determining that unsafe structures exist upon properties as described in Exhibit A and directing that notice to abate nuisance be posted on said premises.
I move we adopt resolution number 1947 as read.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second. Yep.
What nuisance is this? Or what premise? Sorry, I didn't mean to make people dig. I was just curious. Is this one we've discussed?
Through the building official has declared, or is wanting them declared nuisances because they have a water utility bill set off and they need to be.
You have to have running water.
Right, for sanitary.
Yes.
reasons and stuff. Okay. So if we do this, then that ceases.
That says you can't be living in there because it's not fit.
Okay.
Council needs to declare it.
Yep.
Or our code, it needs to declare that nuisance.
Okay, any other discussions? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Resolution 1948, a resolution of the city of St. Helens, Oregon, authorizing a loan from the Special Public Works Fund by entering into a financing contract with the Oregon Infrastructure Finance Authority.
We adopt resolution number 1948 as read.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1948. Any discussion? Okay, Council President Moore.
Aye.
Council Topaz.
Aye.
Council Chilton.
Aye.
Council Berkeley. Aye. And I'm an aye as well. Set agenda for approval for council minutes, executive session minutes dated February 11th and 16th, 2022. Work session, executive session, public hearing, and regular session minutes dated February 16th, 2022. executive session minutes dated February 22nd, 2022. 5 OLCC licenses and 6 accounts payable bill list.
I move we approve consent agenda items number 4, 5, and 6 as read.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda 4, 5, and 6. Any discussion? Okay, Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Tilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
I,
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, I don't think we had anything from our work session earlier on any action items, so let's go ahead and do council member reports. You want to fire it off, Council President Morton?
I will. I just heard an interesting commentary from Judith Thompson. In a sense, talking about service development charges, which deals with parks and roads and those kinds of charges. Brought to mind, what do we have? Is it possible to give, and is this a state mandated, I'm sure, service development charges for our police? Because she referenced the number of police that we had at one time, and it's deteriorating. That's exactly what service development charges do for parks and for streets and transportation, those water, that kind of those kinds of developments. And it's an interesting kind of issue that she brought to mind. Why can't some of those service development, why can't we implement service development charges for police as well? I didn't have an answer for that. And I've set in on service development charges from the get-go.
SCCs, right?
Yeah. So, and then I believe we will be having a session for service development charges here at some time. It seems like I've read something in a upcoming council meetings. Is that right, John? Or
Yeah, the system development charges are charges for are prescribed in the ORS as far as
that's what I thought.
mostly utility related as far as parks and
The police or safety.
but that said, there's many communities that they want enhanced levels of services and they put those fees on their utility bills for streets, for parks, for
Yeah, that's true.
for public safety is a big one, and and some of them are like Cornelius has a general service fee where it's just a general, just helps the general fund out because the general fund needs the support programs. And when you don't have the ability to control your property tax rate, you're limited to the tools you have, and that's one of the ways that work around that.
So the service development charges are mostly for new construction that comes into the community.
Yeah, they're set by the state.
And it's kind of a charge for catching up with what all the citizens have been paying for years and years and years, the parks and the streets and that kind of thing. What kind of impact that new residents will have on the system. So,
What have we been
and-
using this for right now?
pardon me?
Everything,
Okay.
everything that's qualified.
Not
The
police.
sidewalks, a little bit for the sidewalks on North Vernonia.
Yeah.
I think some matching funds for
Water and sewer type thing.
Right,
for
exactly.
the parks, for the Campbell Park. I think part of that was matching. Was that correct?
Yes, there's SBC eligible projects and they're identified. It's related to the growth. You can't use it to replace infrastructure, but it can pay for the capacity of the new development impacts. So it's real formula based.
Yeah, so I guess I'm asking, just because it was a spark, to have our system development guy who reports to us on system development charges come in at sometime soon. So it brings all of us up to date on where our FTCs are. Because I know many contractors do not like the SDCs because they got to go pay for the permits firsthand, and the SDCs will be on there and it's costing the contractor more money up front. And so there's a discussion about that. It'd be a good discussion. And I think it's good for, especially our two new council people, to weigh in on what SDCs do and how to regulate them so it's fair for everyone. Anyway, thank you, Judith Thompson, for bringing that up. I'm very appreciative of that. Nothing in parks at this point. We're having a Parks Commission meeting, and hopefully the discussion will be about getting the master plan initiated and going. Okay. That's it.
Councilor Topaz.
I have a number of things which I've written down, starting at the bottom. This Saturday is the fun run for getting monies for food for the food bank, which we have a fair interest in since we're helping them build the new food bank. And they need a permit, and evidently they had to pay $500 by check. I was surprised we couldn't have eliminated that ahead of time. The next part, and this is kind of an oversight of the community, the Elks donated $8,000 to the food bank. And the food bank said thanks and all, but I sure would hope that the council and the newspapers would tell the community that the food bank got $8,000 from the Elks. It was a big thanks. So maybe we could have our PR people do something on that. Okay, I've got a couple of things that kind of fit together about how plans have changed in kind of strange ways. And when we first started the Riverwalk design, we had a Riverwalk width of 21 feet, measured from the edge, the top edge. And after a redo, because of need of getting ambulances, we brought it up to 30 feet. But when the property was bought, being the open air property, we had a code change that said we had public property that was 50 foot wide along this piece of ground, which is about 2,600 feet. And by going down to 30 feet, we basically got rid of 40% of the public ground in the design. And I don't think the public is going to be happy when we're supposed to get 50 when we only get 30. That's one thing. Now, this last week, actually this Monday, I went over to the county tax office and try to find out how much money the marijuana grow operation pays. And I found out that the only ground that the marijuana group owns is 100 by 100 foot piece of ground over there, and they pay $518 a year. Now, according to our sales, or at least what the council was told, we sold them 8.6 acres. And 8.6 acres on even the rate that you use, the $518, so they ought to be paying $19,000, basically $500. If you pay the rate I pay on my place, they ought to be paying $75,000. Most of the ground, according to the county, is city owned. So either the city is chipping the county out of $75,000 a year in taxes. Anyway, I think that should be looked into. Now,
Somebody's moving something over there.
yeah, well, I spent some time. The other thing is, there are multiple buildings on that site, which we were told that needed to be put there so they could get their permits. And the city has to okay those permits so the state liquor group can allow them to have their permits. And is that handled by the council or is that handled by the staff? Because one of the things that I found out both from the county and another group that owns ground with the permits is the office that takes care of this is so far behind. They're a year behind in permit handling. So the question is, how do we get buildings being built when they can't get a permit because the people don't even answer the phone? That's my questions for today. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Shelton.
Well, on the kind of on the topic of, asking about and trying to think of some creative ways to, you know, come up with the funding that we desperately need for our police. One of the ideas that I had been kind of tossing in my head, hoping that we'd have a chance to discuss, is looking at the possibility of using some of the funds from our timber sales to help with that. That is something we're anticipating, and
No slush fund.
Shaking my-
No
shaking your
slush
head
fund
there,
with
so
timber.
is it shut
Absolutely.
down?
We've already exhausted a lot of freaking, and I'm gonna speak up, we've already exhausted a lot of general funds just into the police station itself. Trying to get it at $3. You guys were all part of that discussion. It was like, Patrick was like, I was wanting a little bit more, but it was like pulling teeth to go from 2 to 3, remember?
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the staffing needs.
And I
And that
understand
is a
that, and
solution.
I understand that, because actually, we're pulling out of our general fund though, also to fund our police, 3.6 million.
Mhm.
Just throwing that out there, that's what we spend, county spends 2.6. Well, I'm not opposed to, I'm not saying that, but that should not become a slush fund that we depend upon, it should be budgeted in right.
I do agree, but it sounds like time is of the essence, and maybe it's an issue that we haven't budgeted in previous years. And so maybe it's a start that we need to start, but we also know that it's an immediate need, you know, as Judy brought up, 10 years ago, we should have been hiring more officers and we didn't. So now we're kind of trying to play catch up. So it's just an idea, something that I feel like, because we're gonna have some creative solutions about how we're gonna come up with the money for that.
And I'm not, I heard, and we're with them when it's not us against them, and I'm not trying to speak against it, but we did actually add positions since I've been here. And we've given them raises and stuff like that, and we're going to add more, we know that. We were discussing that today.
Mhm.
And I don't think the timber, I think we should stay within our budget. And really depend upon that as far as moving forward to be fiscally responsible instead of like a slush fund, because that's what you're saying, let's just make it a slush fund.
Mr. Mayor,
Kind of a little bit.
I've been in towns where they needed a new fire engine, which is a big hunk of money. So they had a fair or a lottery or something. So it isn't a tax. People kind of donated for a cause. Maybe they got a little green bunny and a chance of winning $10. Is that possible to use a technique like that to raise money for the police department?
Only if you'll be the green bunny.
Okay, 3 years, so.
Well, I think we are actually on a solution. I don't blame her for bringing it up, because she knows that we are actually in the process of cutting some timber, and I just personally, we've never, ever tried to premeditate that money into position. Just, it's always there for just in case. Really. And maybe some of it does fit that. I don't know. I'll let John speak a little bit more on that, because.
Well, I just wanted to say that this is maybe the first time to have
That's all.
the discussion about that. But there's a lot of fiscal policy parameters around one-time revenues at your best practices. And, you know, it's something we certainly could talk about in the budget committee, and we were trying to work on strategies to do that. The public safety needs. Right now, those investments are in community development, and they're looking at leveraging more economic activity to create jobs, create investment.
And the sidewalks that you were talking
create
about,
space.
the sidewalks you were talking about, if we ever have any funding that comes up over those and we don't have an SD eligible, we ain't doing those sidewalks. So there's a balance there, because we have two big entities. We have public works, we have police.
Right.
Those are too big.
Well,
And
and I do agree that they
we're
are,
getting out ready for negotiations
Right.
on public works.
right, and I do understand that, and I do understand that with the
Inflation.
structural needs that we have with the city group, that public works is a huge necessity also. But I just have to tell you that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but police come
Well,
first.
and
Public
inflation,
safety
and
comes first.
inflation.
So,
Well, you gotta
in my
have,
opinion-
you gotta have clean water and running sewers.
I do agree with that, but I'm
and
just
safe
saying,
roads,
you
and
know,
safe roads.
in my report, I'm just saying that I believe public safety comes before that, so.
I'm sorry.
That has to be priority number one, and so I'm just gonna advocate for that, that's all I'm doing, and trying to think of creative ways, which it sounds like John is working on. So I'm looking forward to seeing,
You're right,
yes, I'm looking forward to seeing that discussion, and I'm looking forward to seeing just more talk about the timber funds and what we would use that for if we can't use it for this need, so.
So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, I mean, our financial director, when he gets behind a project, really likes to find ways and means, and we have to stick within a parameter of the budget.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that personally, and he works under me, under administration. And we need to make sure that we budget like it should be allocated for every library consistently, and not just what's the trend. So that's just my personal, what I've witnessed in my 4 years being here. I've been here almost as long as that happened, so, and I've talked a little bit with Doug about it.
I think one of the things that's happened, Jessica, that and we just went through it in our little special meeting. The only thing that I had brought up in the department that I'm liaison to is the urban trail, which is very, very inexpensive and nothing else. So just come on, let's work on the master plan. Let's do this, and let's take the back seat for a bit in terms of finances and trying doing new things in our parks. Just keep it status quo for the meantime, because the police do need to catch up. That's a department that's gone behind.
Yes.
And I do think that the parks is very fortunate. We have people like Patrick who volunteers, and thank heavens that we get a lot out of our volunteers in the parks. They enjoy the parks. They become stakeholders that way, and it doesn't cost us anything. So I kind of like that, and that's kind of why I kept my mouth shut under these special projects, other than doing a trail, which is fairly, I think, nondescript in terms of how much money it's going to take to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought you have my support totally on what you're asking for from the department that I'm a liaison, and that's part of the news that I'm going to give them when I go back to our next Parks Commission meeting, that don't expect a whole lot of new things, new facilities, and that kind of thing in the near future in this upcoming year. I just don't see it. So if any of the Parks Commission people are listening, a little bit of fair warning of what I'm going to suggest of how I'm going to weigh in on this council.
Well, thank you, Doug. I appreciate your support, and I probably, you know, just from the few staffs that I've talked to, I think that a lot of staff agree that, you know, public safety, we need to focus on that for a little bit. Is that right? So I think we'll have a lot of support from staff, and I'm guessing other, you know, parks and trails commissions and things like that value police enforcement of the parks and, you know, preserving those things and just, you know, the value that comes from that. So thanks, Doug. In my report, I just had one more thing that I wanted to share. It's a little bit of personal news, but it is news. My family is expanding by one.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. So I feel like it's been public knowledge in my personal life, but I haven't told anyone here. So
That's awesome. All right, way to go.
So I'll be having a baby in August. So yeah, halfway there. Surprise!
Love it.
Be prepared to pay the SEC for contributing to.
Exactly.
We could, right? Congratulations, Jessica.
So I figured I should make that public knowledge before I start walking around with the basketball in my shirt and you guys are like, what's going on with her? Something's changing. So I still plan on being very active and, you know, just toting around a newborn and doing my job. So, you know, power to the women. Yeah, that's all I got though. So thank you guys.
Which is a nice segue. March is Women's History Month. So important to recognize that. And I think sometimes people wonder why, might wonder why we are emphasizing a particular group of people and not others. And my understanding is, because we're promoting women's history doesn't mean that we're diminishing the contribution of men or whatever, but it is, I think, a fact that the role of women in the history of humankind has been overlooked. And so I encourage everyone during this month of March to delve into that and take a look into all of the important contributions have been made, continue to be made, and will be made. And not just in the role as a role of a mother, as important that is. I'm delighted for you. That's just
Thanks, Pat.
exciting. So other than that, I'll be my wife and I will be participating in the fun run, although we're choosing to walk. We're not up to running in that, but we'll be participating in that. My wife and I are also looking forward to beginning our training for the Columbia Emergency Response Team training. So I don't know, I might be having traffic control vest on, et cetera, during the town or whatever, when that time comes. But really excited about that. We applied over a year ago, and then the training was canceled because of the pandemic. And just another, what might be a real interesting tidbit, the Planning Commission is meeting next week, its regular monthly meeting. And I don't know if everyone is aware of the aerial photography that being conducted and if you go to the Planning Commission packet for this upcoming meeting, and you go to our planners Jacobs report, there is a great picture that shows the flight path of the plane as it was taking pictures over. It's just a fascinating sort of thing. So just put that out there also as an example of the many things that the city is doing and folks aren't always aware of, but are important in contributing to making St. Helens a better place. So
Go ahead,
Before you wrap it up,
go ahead.
I've got to go back, and one of the things that I want to report on is something that was so encouraging to me that I don't know how it got by me on the last on our last council meeting, but it happened just prior to our last council meeting. I got a call from Kenneth Gates, and Casey Wheeler, and they wanted to meet up at the, guess where, the food bank, because those two were the visionaries on creating a new food bank for Columbia County. And so Casey and Ken, Casey actually is overseeing that structure. And I got a tour, and I was so amazed at what that facility is going to do for our community. My heavens, and it's right in the middle of our town. It's not on any part of the outskirts or next to the tracks or anything like that. It's right in the middle of our community. And anyone who walks into that place is as exciting as our new public safety facility. And once you get inside, you just go, oh my heavens, this is going to be a great place to work, wonderful place to go to for people who are in need of food. It serves our community so well. I just wanted to say that I was so impressed that darn near had tears in my eyes when I was walking around there and listening to Casey explain how that will help facilitate our community. And it employs a lot of volunteer workers And it's just a tremendous asset for our city. I just want to say that because I'm fresh on that.
I'm gonna add to that. One of the benefits that the food bank has is people in the community can be part of the food bank by donating food or money to them. People who have gardens can donate their vegetables, their fruits, other things. It's a good way to be part of the community as a donator. They are gonna have areas for teaching people how to cook. A lot of people who are in need literally do not know the basics of how to prepare food. So that's gonna be part of this new facility. It isn't just gonna be giving food away and doing that. So donate money, food, help, and also be able to learn.
So what do I have to report on? Was it good? Looking over our goals earlier was excellent. You can see that the city has a lot going on. You can see a lot of projects there that were under public works. That we have been understaffed on public works, and this has happened a long time ago. Clear back when Scott Williams was transferred, and there was a position then that went away, but it was filled with Scott because. But he was already employed by the city, but it was filled with Scott, so we lost the position there. And we have some big projects, and what I know as sitting here for 4 years is that we have to have balance. And that timber tax actually went towards buying the community center that we spent on. We did not budget it, and we had it there when that arose, and it was good for the community, which we all agree with. We've all talked about that community center and love it. Now, if we took that and budgeted it and didn't have it there for community development, then we have opportunities that we don't know when they're gonna arise. So, but I just wanna also say there's a lot of projects that are looking like they're not gonna be able to be funded, that are capital improvements within our city, which stems development, which pays SDC charges, which brings in business, which brings in, so we have to keep it balanced this budget season, okay? That's all I was trying to say. I definitely support the police and they're working together. It sounds like John and Matt and Chief have it pretty ironed out. So that's all I was trying to say on that. I just want to make some clarifications that I'm not anti-police and I'm not, it's just about balance. And I am always a fiscally responsible person to a fault. So that's why I shook my head and was like, no, right away, no, that's why, because that's who I am by nature. So I would like to make a comment on with the E2C that we are actually our attorneys that we hire are extremely busy because other cities are utilizing them too. I just want to answer Brady Preheim's little thing earlier that we are continuing to work on that. And it's in the forefront of our mind. And so, yeah, I'm encouraged about tomorrow's joint meeting with Scappoose and Columbia City and the PUD. And I'm sad that you can't make it, but I'm glad you're working with CERT, which is a great organization that does a lot. Yeah, it was just a nice little retreat earlier to look at all these different projects. And you can see, I mean, if you need to take it home and just revisit it, there's the only ones that are in the budget already have a dollar amount, the others say unknown. And then you look at a lot of these and you gotta keep that balance. So now's a good time to remember as we move forward into budget season that we have a lot of things going on. So that's what I have to report on.